So now we're going to look at proportions and unit rates, which will be on the next, we'll have a quiz on this and we're going to have a test on it as well. But it's easy. This level 2 stuff is easy, but we need to watch it because there are things on it that we won't have seen before. So just for the sake of practice and just becoming familiar with it, we'll know how to do it, but just make sure that you've seen it. So let's have a look at a couple of this. First thing, what is a proportion? So something for your notes to write down. A proportion it's a statement that two fractions are equivalent. Alright? For example, if I say 1 over 4 equals 2 over 8, okay, that tells you that 1 over 4 equals 2 over 8, so it's a statement that two fractions are equal, and it's true, so that is a proportion. If you look at one like if I say 1/4 equals 3/5, those two fractions are not equal. That does not give you a proportion. Okay? So when you state that two fractions are equivalent, that means you have a proportion. It obviously must be true as well. Okay, how do you solve a proportion? So what I mean by solving a proportion is where you have a proportion where one of the numbers is missing. And what I mean by that is if we have, say, x over 5 equals, say, 3 over 15. Okay, so something divided by 5 is the same as 3, or something over 5 is the same as 3 over 15, right? So some of this, people who are aware of how equivalent fractions work will notice that 5 times 3, so that to get from one fraction to the other, it's multiplication by 3. So that also must be multiplication by 3, which means that x is 1. So 1 over 5, so that means that 1 over 5 equals 3 over 15. Okay? So how can you solve this proportion? There's a trick for solving proportions like this, which we can use all the time, and it always works. And what it is, if you look at, I'm going to write that question out again. X over 5 equals 3 over 15. Now imagine you didn't quite spot that 5 times 3 is 15, so you multiply the top by 3 as well. Or imagine it's a more complicated problem where what you have to multiply the numbers by isn't so obvious. There's a trick. So if you look at this here, you'll see that we've two diagonals, so I'm going to highlight them here. Okay, so what have we got? The first diagonal there, and the second diagonal there. So we have a grey diagonal and a red diagonal. One of those diagonals has a letter and a number. One of those diagonals has two numbers. You look for the diagonal with the two numbers, multiply them, and then divide by the other number, by the remaining number. So if you look here, the red diagonal has an x and a 15, so it has a letter and a number. We can't use that. The other diagonal has 5 and 3, so that's two numbers. You multiply. So you do. So we're going to work out. Hold on a second. Let's change that. What we're going to calculate is x equals 3 times 5. Okay, because you multiply the two numbers in the diagonal. And then what number is left over? 15. You divide by that. Okay? 3 times 5 is 15, divided by 15 equals 1. Okay, so that's the answer that we got when we looked at it in the previous way as well. X is 1. 1 over 5 equals 3 over 15. Okay, let's look at a couple that we can do. Alright, I'm going to do, what is it, just two of them? Two of them here fast. So we go with the first one. 4 over 5 equals x over 80. Okay, let's look at our two diagonals here. So we have this one here, and we have this one here. So what have we got? One of the diagonals has 5 and x. We can't use that because it doesn't have two numbers, it has a number and a letter. The other one is 4 and 80. So you multiply 4 times 80 and divide by 5. So your answer is going to be x equals 4 times 80 divided by 5. So that's 320 divided by 5, which equals 64. Okay, so that tells you then that 4 over 5 is the same as 64 over 80. Job done. Okay, and it's true, 4/5 is 64 over 80. Let's try one other one. Now this one, 7, what do you have to multiply 7 by? Look at the top of the two fractions there. What do you have to multiply 7 by to get 15? Well, it's going to be 2 point something. So in that case, we can't just multiply the bottom by the same number. We have to use this proportion trick. But it doesn't matter because it works all the time anyway. So I'll write it out to make it a bit clearer. 7 over 9 equals 15 over x. Look at our diagonals again. We've got 7 and x there. We've got 9 and 15. So the diagonal with the two numbers is 9 and 15. So we do x. Let's change that again really quickly, sorry. We'll do x equals 9 times 15 divided by 7, which is 135 divided by 7. Now, to finish that, you should leave your answer as a fraction. And I'll explain to you how you can do it. So look, 135 divided by 7, just do the division. I'll do it here in black. 7, 135. 7 doesn't go into 1. 7 goes into 13 once. Put down the 7, subtract, you get 6. Bring down the 5. 7 goes into 65 9 times. 63. And then when you subtract, you get 2 left over. I'll have to write the remainder over here because I don't have space. So 2 left. 7 doesn't go into 2. So you have 2 left over. So your answer is that x equals 19. And then remember you put the remainder over the divisor. 19 and 2/7. Okay? So that's why that's trickier. 7/9 is the same as 15 over 19 and 2/7. Okay? The answers don't always have to be whole numbers and they won't always be whole numbers. Okay? So that's your answer. When you replace x in the original proportion, or in the original statement, it creates a proportion. Okay. Look at some real world problems that you can solve using this type of thing. So, when you look at this here, it tells you 3 cartons of juice cost $2.37. Find the cost of 1 carton of juice. Let's have a look. So what have we got? In this question, it's talking about the number of cartons and the price. Quantity and price. So what we can do is, let's make a proportion. So we're going to do quantity over price. Okay? So I'm going to say in this case then, the quantity of cartons of orange juice you can buy 3 for $2.79. Okay? And then the question you want to know, I can buy 1 for how much? So we call it x. So if you look at it, we've translated that question into a ratio, or into a proportion. Because what I told you is, if you look at the top, quantity 3, price $2.79. And then the other side, quantity 1, price I don't know, because that's what I'm trying to work out. And now you solve the ratio as before. You do x equals, multiply the diagonal, $2.79 times 1 divided by 3. It's going to be 93 cents. Okay? Now, in this case, this particular question, when you see that it's called proportions and unit rates, it's called a unit rate because I wanted the price of 1 carton of orange juice. Okay? When I ask you for a unit rate, I'm asking you for how much is 1 carton, or how long does it take to do 1 kilometer, or how far can you go in 1 hour. Okay, that's what unit rates mean. Okay? How much can you do, or how far can you go in 1 unit of time, or 1 unit of money. Okay. This one's a little bit different. Actually, it's very similar. This isn't the unit rate, though. So again, look, what are we looking at here? 2 tubes of toothpaste, $2.60. So you're talking about quantity and price. Okay? So again, we do quantity over price. These type of questions, it could tell you how much money they earn in how many hours. So you would do money over hours. You know, it's just, once you make a proportion where it tells you one thing gets you this much, so another thing gets you this much, and then you work the proportions from there. So what we do here, quantity, 2 tubes of toothpaste, price is 2.60. If you did it upside down and did price on top and quantity on bottom, it's going to work out the same. Okay, so how much would it cost for 9 tubes of toothpaste? So quantity 9, price, how much? We don't know. Let's work it out. So, X is equal to 260 times 9 divided by 2. 260 times 9 is 2340. Okay, you can work that out. And then divided by 2, it's going to be 1170. And what's that? X. X is the price of 9 tubes of toothpaste. So to clarify, 9 tubes equals, say we're talking in euros, 1170. And that's it. Simple. So those questions are easy. We'll practice some of those in class. The final thing we're going to look at in this level 2 is how to turn a fraction into, or how to turn a fraction into a percentage using a proportion. So what you want to do, when you're changing that, you want to write your fraction as an equivalent fraction with a denominator 100. Okay? So for example, if you look, most of us will know 3/4 is equal to 75 out of 100, which then is 75%. Okay? So what you do is you work out the fraction with denominator 100, and then you can take the denominator away. So if I work out that a fraction is equal to 63 out of 100, well, that means 63%. Or 5 out of 100 means 5%. So look, we know this, but I'm going to show you how to do it with the calculation and the proportion, right? So what we would do is 3/4 is equal to something out of 100. Okay, 3/4 is what out of 100? 3/4 is what percent? Okay, solve your proportion. You're going to get, the numbers in the diagonal are 3 and 100, so 3 times 100 divided by 4. 3 times 100 divided by 4, 75%. Right? Simple. So have a look at this one. 5/8. So what do? You write 5/8 equals something over 100. Okay? You get x, multiply your diagonals. 5 times 100 divided by 8, which is 500 divided by 8. Now we should be able to divide 8 into 500. And if you do, you're going to find out that your answer goes in 62.5 times, so 62.5%. Okay? And the last one we'll do, 4/7. Same thing, just for the sake of practice, I'll show you 4/7 is equal to something over 100. Alright? So, same again. X equals 4 times 100 divided by 7, which is 400 divided by 7. 7 goes into 457 times, and 1 left over, 1/7%. And that's your answer. Okay? That's how they work. It's pretty straightforward, I think. So on this video, there's the 3 things we've learned. We've learned how to solve a proportion, we've learned some basic word problems and unit rates involving proportions, and we've learned how to turn fractions into percents using proportions. And that's it. That's this video done. That's level 2 over. And that's it.